Good evening. We're reconvening the monthly meeting of the Township of Morris Township Committee for March 17th, 2021. Can everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Jarfi.
Here.
Mr. Ravitz.
Here.
Mr. Mancuso.
Here.
Mrs. Wilson.
Here.
Mayor GRAYZEL.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. First order of business is approval of minutes from February 17th, 2021 regular and closed session and the March 9th special meeting.
Move they be accepted as circulated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, do you see members of the public out there, Mark? The other ones are not there yet. So it seems like, yeah, so maybe people, because we started late, people left. I am having a feeling. So we need our honorees to be, I told everybody to wait if we weren't starting on time. Okay, so Gavin's here.
That's good.
I'm not seeing anybody else that's on the list here, unless that phone number is one up top. I can bring it over and ask and then just tell the fact.
What's the phone number?
840-970-8488.
I'm trying to see.
I see Kimberley, you want to bring over Kimberly Strasser?
Yeah, that's your,
Kimberly Strasser can come over.
There's Kim, okay.
How about Thomas Guttridge? See,
Kimberly's there, okay. She's over.
last name of Guttridge, General Jeff.
Who else we got here? Goodrich not on here.
Okay. Youngelson.
Where's Alex? Alex was going to be on, right?
Also have another phone number there, Mark.
Oh, yeah, that 973. All I can do with those is bring it over and have you ask, and then just bring it back again if they're not.
Oh, can we ask them to raise their hand? If anybody is there, or is a member of staff could raise their hand?
Oh,
there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
very good. Okay, so sorry for that, because we have a presentation to make and we wanted to make sure that all of the honorees could log in. So we do now see some of them, so I'm sorry for the delay here. We have a proclamation in March 2021 for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. And we have a proclamation that I'd like to read into the record. Whereas millions of Americans have grown up with severe physical and mental impairments that have slowed their learning, limited their mobility, inhibited their expression, and rendered them dependent on others for care and assistance. And whereas for many of these people with developmental disabilities, there is now the prospect of a brighter future and greater opportunities afforded them. Americans are becoming increasingly aware that such disabilities need not keep individuals from realizing their full potential in school, at work, or at home, as members of their families and of their communities. And whereas new opportunities have been created through the efforts of those with developmental disabilities and their family members, along with professionals and officials at all levels of government, working together, they have brought about significant changes in the public perception of young people and adults with developmental disabilities, opening new doors to independent and productive lives. And whereas the United States Congress, by Public Law 49-483, has designated the month of March 2021 as National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Now, therefore, that the Mayor and the Township Committee recognizes March 2021 as National Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month and invites residents of the Township of Morris, invite all residents of the Township of Morris and owners of our community to join them in recognizing our fellow citizens with such disabilities with both encouragement and the opportunities they need to lead productive lives and to achieve their full potential. So such a proclamation is now made and entered into the record. The next order of business is a community service recognition. As many of you have seen over the past couple of years, we started recognizing people in the community for the good things they do on behalf of others, for their volunteer work, their achievements, and the like. And tonight we have a special group of people with us related to the SNAP organization, Special Needs Athletic Program. In 2006, Matthew and Zachary Sertner, former Morris Township residents and graduates of Morristown High School, created the Special Needs Athletic Program, also known as SNAP, when they were in middle school and high school. Their mission to create a culture of acceptance was carried out through the creation of sports clinics for children with special needs. They recruited eager and compassionate middle and high schoolers to become a mentor at these sports programs, which taught the fundamental skills of a variety of sports while also fostering social interactions. The Sertners were also passionate about educating others about disabilities. And so in 2012, SNAP partnered with the Morris School District to bring disabilities awareness training to each third grade student. Their second mission of promoting awareness and empathy was developed through their Kids Helping Kids motto and educational initiatives that still continue each year with Kim Strasser as director of SNAP for the past 9 years. Kim is a Morris Township resident of 25 years and a former special ed teacher. She's a parent to 4 kids, including a special needs adult, and has been a volunteer for SNAP since its inception. She has been instrumental in keeping its programs going after the Sertner family moved out of Morris Township and is clearly proud to be part of this wonderful organization. Whether guiding the mentors at the sports clinics or running awareness training in Morris School District, Kim is a positive force for SNAP, and I am pleased to introduce to the community Kim Strasser and have asked her to make a brief presentation on the work that SNAP does. So Kim, I'm going to bring you online. There you are.
Thank you.
Take it away. Take it away.
GRAYZEL. I so appreciate your support, and I so appreciate being able to share what I'm really passionate about. So thank you for your kind words, and for all of the members of the Township Committee. Thanks for all you do for everything in Morris Township to make it an amazing town. What I love about SNAP is that there are so many kids that are positively impacted by SNAP, which ultimately makes our community a better place to live. Through our awareness program each year, Morris School District's entire third grade, which is approximately 400 students, experience the hands-on disability awareness training, which introduces the concept of empathy and basically imagining how others would like to be treated. Since SNAP's motto is Kids Helping Kids, through this training, we also recruit SNAP ambassadors, which I believe there was a SNAP ambassador with the last name of Mancuso this year. So I did have the pleasure of meeting Tripp, and he did a fantastic job at Thomas Jefferson School. So these kids are the kindest kids in the school. They are nominated by the teachers, given to me to help run the training, and they take on this leadership role. So through this training, they deliver this anti-bullying message that helps to inspire kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. And then after the training, SNAP challenges these children to go out in their community, in their school, and do impactful things. So be inclusive, reach out to those in need, help others. And we're talking like 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that we're challenging them to do it, and they are, and the teachers are letting me know who is doing what. So I go into the school and I bring in SNAP awards, little pieces of paper that these kids are really, really proud of, and I know the parents are too. So, so I'm really proud of the awareness part of SNAP. But what I really am passionate about as well is the athletic piece. And the athletic piece is basically giving special needs kids a place to go and play sports, where they feel accepted and included, and that they have a friend. And the friends are these amazing mentors that we would not be able to do the program without. So basically there's 12 to 15 special needs kids that come every week to our free sports clinics. Always been free, we'd never charge anything. And while we haven't been in person for the last year, we are doing Zoom sessions, trying to think outside the box, bring some activities to the kids. We exercise, we socialize, they work on taking turns, but ultimately we want the students to just feel confident, connected, and happy. So whether we're in person or on Zoom, the activities are run by these super cool and amazing mentors. While volunteering, these mentors learn a variety of things. They learn to understand and accept differences. They show tolerance and patience, and ultimately they're giving back to the community. Our sports clinics would not be possible without our dedicated mentors. So some of them are here tonight. I would like to introduce them, and I told them they only have 30 to 60 seconds to just say a sentence or two about something that they have learned by working with special needs kids. So I would like to start with Gavin.
Hi, my name is Gavin FREY. I am 15. I've been a SNAP mentor for about a year and a half. And what I've learned from doing SNAP is that little things really do go a long way. Just smiling at someone is really, really impactful. Waving to someone. Because sometimes these kids might get bullied at school or might not have friends sometimes at school. So you are there to be their friend. You are there to help them too. So you've got to treat them like they're your friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gavin.
Well said.
And then, of course, we have Alex GRAYZEL.
Hi, my name's Alex GRAYZEL. I'm 17 years old, and I've been working with SNAP for about 5 years. And one thing I've learned from SNAP is to stay calm and relaxed through challenges and try to always have fun with these kids, because you're not only their friends, they're your friends. And it's just amazing to, play sports and games with them and just see them laugh and smile all the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex.
Well said.
And Noah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Noah MAROVITZ, and I'm 15 years old, and I've been with the SNAP program for about 4 years. And my major takeaway from SNAP is that I really learned how, despite our differences among each other, everyone is way more similar than you think you are. And SNAP has really taught me to a buildup of compassion for those with special needs. And it really helps you to see different perspectives on life and how the littlest things can make someone's day. Like these Zoom calls every Thursday, like we're going on there, and it's the highlight of these kids' weeks. And it's awesome to just see them smile every week and put a smile on their face.
Very nice job,
right,
Noah.
Hi, I'm Luke. Oh, did you say me?
No, so next is Luke.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Luke POTAMIANOS. I'm 15, and I've been with SNAP for about 4 years. I've just learned a lot more about being a more patient person and being able to interact with people that aren't really quite like other people, and the importance of the small things that you can do to make someone a lot happier. Just if it's going around and kicking a ball or teaching them how to shoot a basketball, it really makes a really big impact on what's happening in their life inside or outside of school.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luke.
Nice
And
job,
last but
Luke.
not least, we have Ian.
Hi, I'm Ian YOUNGELSON. I'm 15 years old, and I've been with SNAP for about a year and a half. And one thing I've learned is that doing the little things and just greeting the kids, or when they get bingo, if we play bingo, congratulating them, and it makes them really happy, and you can see how excited they are to have someone congratulate them and just be their friend. So it gave me an understanding of how to be a better person and be friends to those who are less fortunate.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Good, son. Kim, can I say something, Peter, here?
Absolutely, Peter.
I want to thank you so much for bringing these 5 wonderful gentlemen over. And I'm so happy that my favorite 10-year-old grandson, Trip, is part of the whole program. And I so look forward to talking with him about it. But thank you for all your work, ma'am.
You are very welcome. And it was a pleasure working with Trip. He is a great, great human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I so appreciate, as I said, all of these mentors. And I'm hoping that Mayor GRAYZEL may give us a little bit of time sometime this spring, because many of them are going to be, shh, don't tell them, but many of them are going to be earning some awards, and I would like to bring them back and have you guys congratulate them as well. So what we were thinking with SNAP, and Mayor GRAYZEL and I were batting back and forth, that in honor of National Disabilities Awareness Month, we would like to offer our disability awareness training to anyone in Morris Township who would like to participate in it. So I have two eager mentors that are on here tonight that would like to explain a little bit about what you could expect with the disability awareness training. So I'm going to turn it over to Luke.
So Noah and I really appreciate the opportunity to lead this training with Ms. Strasser. And we really want to thank Mr. GRAYZEL and SNAP for their support and guidance throughout this. So we'll be offering a free virtual session entitled Disability Awareness Training on April 25th at 4 p.m. During this 40-minute training, you'll experience what it feels like to have a disability and struggle with everyday tasks such as dyslexia, fine motor difficulties, autism, sensory overload, and visual impairments, which are created during the shorthand activities we'll be doing.
So the goal for this entire session is to increase the empathy for those perceived as different, which hopefully creates a more acceptance and inclusion in our overall community. And Mayor GRAYZEL will be sending out a Sign Up Genius, which is like an app and something you can go sign up on for you to reserve your spot. And the training isn't age specific, but we do recommend being ages 8 and up. And the final thing is we just want to thank you guys again for having us tonight. And we want you all to have a great night. And we hope to see some of you on April 25th.
Awesome. And if no one has any questions, we do have a few photos that we just thought might bring some smiles to your faces. So does anyone have any questions?
Well, let's play the video first, and then we'll open it up to comments and questions. So hold on, we're going to bring that little video on the screen. And there was some music to this, but that's okay. It's the pictures that matter.
Selected on the right.
Great, and Kim, maybe you can explain that last picture of what we saw on the ice there. What was going on there?
Sure. So once a year, we reserve Aspen Ice for a couple hours. And as you can see, there's many, many people in that photo. We have one mentor per ice skater. And it's basically learn how to skate. There, you can see kids are sitting in chairs because kids that are too afraid to actually skate, we put them on chairs and we push them around the ice. I get a number of people to offer free hot chocolate and free pizza. And it's just a couple hours of just super great, wholesome fun.
That's great. That's great. So I can say from a personal point of view, everybody noticed that one of the mentors had the same last name as I do. So SNAP has impacted my family for 5 years. And I can honestly say that it is not just a one way. It's not just mentors helping out the kids with special needs. It is definitely a two-way relationship. And the kids with special needs teach the mentors something back. The mentors learn the compassion and the empathy needed to deal with special situations, special people, and they develop skills that are going to be helpful to them throughout life. So it is not just that one-way relationship. It is truly a two-way relationship. And I'm grateful for the impact it's had on my family from one way of that relationship. And I'm grateful that my son could give back to the community, and all of these young people can give back to the community in this way to help others in needs. And Kim said that they're going to be getting some certificates soon, and we're happy to recognize them at that point. But I don't know if everybody can see my screen. If you can scroll on your Zoom, use your finger to scroll over to my screen, because I want to show you something. And Mark, can you, how am I getting, I want to see myself. There I am. So I want to put this up to the screen. I don't know if everybody can see it, but it is a certificate of appreciation that we have for the 5 members who are here tonight to make a presentation. Kim, if there are others who you think are worthy, please let us know. But I'd like to read it. It's a certificate of appreciation that's awarded to each individual. And it states, in grateful appreciation for your outstanding volunteer service, showing great character in your caring and selfless dedication to the special needs athletic program, the Mayor and Township Committee of the Township of Morris commends you for the time spent mentoring those with special needs through friendship, acceptance, and a common love of sports. The committee is incredibly proud that our young adults continue the good work of SNAP, which was created by 2 Morris Township young adults 15 years ago. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Township Committee extend their appreciation and gratitude for your commitment and dedication in volunteering your time to our community, and thank you for your commitment and assistance to those among us that need a helping hand. Further, we encourage your commitment of volunteering your time throughout your life. And it's signed by all the members of the Township Committee. We'll be distributing these to the 5 individuals, and happy to print out some more, Kim, if you think others are worthy. But thank you guys. Thank you so much. And like the closing line says, we urge you to continue your volunteerism. I always say that Morris Township is a great place for a number of reasons, and one of those reasons is the wonderful people we have here helping each other out. So thank you for what you do for our town. I'd like to open it up to the rest of the Township Committee if anybody would like to say anything or ask a question.
I'd like to say, congratulations to, all the young people and to Kim for, for heading up this program. Well deserved. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
You answered one of my questions at the end. I was curious who came up with this program. It's just fantastic. I really appreciate it. I was an educator for 30 years, and I know mentoring is a really powerful learning model. So for both the mentee and the mentor. And I especially appreciate the emphasis on building awareness and building empathy. So important. So what a great job. And I'm really glad to learn more about this program, and congratulations to all.
I'll just also note great work, everyone. I remember this program when I was in the high school when the Sertners were running it still. I was 1 year younger than Matt Sertner. My brother went to school with his older brother. So it's so encouraging to see that this program is still alive and well. And thank you for continuing its work.
You're welcome.
And Kim, thank you again. You are just a guiding light for all of us, and we couldn't appreciate what you're doing anymore. And gentlemen, God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, the training is April 25th at 4 p.m. Is it?
Yeah.
Very good. So if people can mark their calendar, so we'll get out a sign up genius to let the community know and sign up for that, which is open to everybody in the public. Kim, anything else to add?
No, just a giant thank you for your time and for your appreciation. It really means a lot.
Okay, so very good. So we have one more award to give out tonight, and that is actually to you, Kim. And we have a community, if you could put me up on the screen. So it's a community service award to Kim Strasser. And I can read that: in recognition and grateful appreciation for her outstanding service to the Township of Morris, not only as a resident of Morris Township, but also as director of the Special Needs Athletic Program. And whereas Kimberly Strasser has been director of SNAP for 9 years and has been with the program for 15 years, and whereas Kim knows firsthand as a parent of a special needs adult what an incredible asset SNAP is to the community in Morris Township and surrounding areas. Her son was one of SNAP's first participants in 2009, and benefited greatly from attending weekly sports clinics. And whereas, as director of SNAP, Kim trains volunteers to be mentors to those with special needs and teaches these young men and women the skills to work with children having developmental disabilities, as well as the empathy to help others in need. And whereas Kim also runs disability awareness training for third grade classes in the Morris School District with the help of fifth grade SNAP ambassadors. And whereas sharing in community endeavors takes precious time spent by special people with special qualities, now hereby let it be known that Kimberly Strasser is being recognized for this Community Service Award for her years of dedicated service and commitment to the SNAP program, to the members of our community, and to the Township of Morris. So thank you, Kim, for everything you do for us, for the community, for these kids, not only the special needs kids, but the mentors. You make an impact on a lot of people's lives. And thank you so much for everything you do. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. It means so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming on the meeting. Okay, so next on the agenda, we move to public commentary and inquiry. We have two sections of public commentary at our meeting. We have one up front for people who want to ask questions and then want to leave, and one at the end for people who have questions about what might have occurred during the meeting. So if anybody from the public would like to ask a question at this point, again, you'll have another opportunity later, but you can raise your hand digitally. If you're on the phone, you can hit *9 to be recognized. Do we see anybody out there? One?
Three.
Who's that? A GRAYZEL? Ah, okay, we have a GRAYZEL. Ellie GRAYZEL.
I just wanted to say I'm so proud of my grandson, Alex GRAYZEL, for volunteering in that SNAP program, and I'm proud of my son, Jeff, for being Township Mayor.
We have our address.
That's great. Oh, yes, sorry. Officially, we need your address for the record.
Or at least the town you live in.
My address is 29 Old Quarry Road, Englewood, New Jersey, 07631.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to have some fans out there in the audience. Thank you, Tom, for joining us tonight.
How much did that cost you, Jeff?
Yeah. The thing with the mask is everybody can't see how broadly I'm smiling, but maybe you can see through my eyes. But thank you for those comments. We're all very proud of not only him, but all of the kids that were involved tonight.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
they're
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to say anything? We have a Thomas.
Thomas Guthridge.
Very good. So Thomas, can you state your name and address, please?
Hi, this is actually his wife, Marta. We're at 25 Rayner Road in Morristown.
Very good. Morris Township, actually.
Yes.
Very good. What's your question or comment?
So we've heard that there will be road expansion on our road. And I don't know if that's something that was planned on being discussed later in the meeting. So if you need me to hold my questions, I can. But, you know, we're excited to have the road expanded and repaved. But there are some concerns in terms of speed limit changes. Are there any possibilities of speed tables being also provided, because this is a throughway and we do have a lot of big cars coming through, trucks, cars that are speeding. There's a lot of children on the road, including mine too, that, you know, play in this area. And if there's any other road restrictions that will be implemented due to this expansion, or will this open it up to even larger trucks coming through?
Okay, so Rayner Road is on our agenda tonight. We actually have a bid report for Rayner Road, and then we have a resolution to award a contract for Rayner Road.
Okay.
So in order that we,
When you're done, I have something.
okay, so I was going to say in order before we get out of order, but do you want to go ahead? Mr. Quinn, who's our township administrator, is going to make a comment.
Sure.
Rich, if the township committee decides to award the contract tonight,
Mhm.
the plans are available All residents along Rayner Road were sent letters today. So you'll be getting a letter this week that will give you information on contacting our engineering department in order to review the plans, especially in the area near your residence. You can set up a meeting with our engineering staff to come in and look at those plans. Usually we do a mass neighborhood meeting where everybody can come in at once, but unfortunately because of COVID, we weren't able to do that. But you will certainly, in that letter, will have the information on how to contact our engineering department and come in and look at the plans.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in public?
Mr. Sister, I think, is on.
Lee Goldberg.
Mr.
Hi,
Goldberg, are you there?
I am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Your name and address, please.
Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road, Morris Township. I just wanted to comment and thank the full Township Committee for recognizing and bringing the SNAP presentation to us this evening. Having had 3 kids all that went through the program around the same age as the Certners and spending time around the program, it's just a phenomenal hidden gem of the Morris School District in this local area. And thank you for taking time out to honor them. It's been a busy, crazy year. I was a little late in joining the meeting, about 8 or so minutes late. And when this came up on the screen and I saw what was being honored and recognized, it really brought up a lot of emotions, and hearing the kids still engaged in talking about it. It's just a phenomenal effort on behalf of the entire program, and thank you for recognizing it. And as Mayor GRAYZEL said, it's certainly a two-way relationship where just everyone that is involved in and around and with the program benefits. And thank you for taking time to recognize them. I truly appreciate it.
Very good. So I assume you're saying that it impacted your kids as well in that two-way relationship.
That is correct. All 3 of my kids having spent time in the program, being mentors, getting trained either at Frelinghuysen or at the high school level, and then being mentors and developing relationships with the other kids. And, just again, to be able to have facilities in town and make space available within the schools to run the programs when they're running in a non-COVID environment. We're grateful for that, and all the volunteers throughout the years, and just to see it still going strong. Sometimes, when the kids that went through it are now young adults, we still talk about SNAP all the time, and but it's just great that the saga is continuing and that they're still going strong and really seeming to get developing true leaders and getting the kids involved at a younger and younger age, and having them show up here tonight at a township committee meeting and be able to speak to it. It's a great start to the meeting tonight, and thank you for bringing it to the public.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Do you have anybody else from the public? Seeing none, can somebody move to close the public portion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. And again, we'll have a second public commentary later in the meeting tonight. Next on the agenda are ordinances, public hearing, and final consideration. There's a special note with number 1, but I'll have Mr. Carlson read into the record 0121, and then we'll address it. Mr. Carlson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the Township of Morris, Morris County, New Jersey, adopting the redevelopment plan for 340 Mount Kemble Avenue regarding the property identified on the township's tax maps as Block 6101, Lot 5, 340 Mount Kemble Avenue, Morris Township, New Jersey, pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A-1 et sec. My understanding is this is going to be continued to a future meeting.
Yes, sir. So just to recap, we introduced this back at our January meeting. We were supposed to have a special meeting on February 24th. Unfortunately, we had a notice issue with that meeting, so we rescheduled it for March 8th. At March 8th, we had a technical difficulty with Zoom, and we have now had to reschedule it again. The new date is now April 1st, Thursday, April 1st at 7 p.m. Notice will be going out in the mail to the 200-foot neighbors, and we're going to do an extended mailing, correct, Mr. Quinn? To the same as before, to the entire neighborhood. but anybody who's in that neighborhood on Frederick Place or the adjoining streets near the 340 Mount Kimball site. Again, the new meeting date is April 1st at 7 p.m. We will post notice to our website and send out legal notice as is required.
I do need a vote on that to move it.
And we do need a vote to move this to April 1st. Roll call, do I have a first to move
I'll
the
make
date?
the motion.
Seconded.
Very good. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. So again, the new meeting date for hearing for ordinance 01-21 will be April 1st, Thursday, April 1st at 7 p.m. Mr. Carlson, ordinance 04-21.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 88 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2A, Section 88-2A.2, excuse me, and Schedule 2 handicap parking spaces. This concerns the removal of a handicap parking spot that's no longer warranted.
Very good. So as this is a public hearing, we get a first and a second first, and then we open it up.
Correct, sir.
So will somebody move ordinance 04-21?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. So before we open it up to poll and commentary, just quickly, Mr. Quinn, can you address the ordinance about the removal of the spot?
Yes, sir. This is for a handicap parking spot that was created several years ago for the resident at number 86 Fairchild Avenue. That resident has since sold the residence to a person, and the handicap spot is no longer needed for in front of 86 Fairchild Avenue. So we're requesting to remove that from the municipal code.
Very good. So frequently when you drive down, well, not frequently, it doesn't happen very frequently, but you might see a reserved handicap parking spot on a street. A resident can request such if they have a disability. We had assigned the spot previously on Fairchild Avenue, and now we're just removing it from the code as a dedicated handicap spot. So with that, I'll open it up to the public for any questions or comments about ordinance 04-21. Please raise your hand virtually or hit *9 on your phone. And seeing none, I'll ask somebody to move close the public portion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Madam Clerk, any comments for the Township Committee? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I need my official language, I'm sorry. I, Jeffrey Grayzell, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Mr. Carlson, 05-21, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 88 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2A, Section 80. This is an ordinance of the Township of Morris, County of Morris concerning salaries for non-union personnel. This establishes the 2021 salaries for the township's non-union personnel.
Very good. And as the ordinance states, it just establishes our salaries for personnel here at Town Hall that are non-union. We've had a policy over a number of years to give everybody a 2% increase every year. And that, Mr. Quinn, is what we've done this year, correct?
That is correct, sir. Similar to township policy that the non-union employees get the same pay increase that our union employees get or their bargaining units get.
Very
I
good.
will offer 521, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. With that, I'll open it up to public comment and questions. Again, raise your hand if you have a comment or question, or dial *9. Seeing none, I'll ask that we close the public portion. Will somebody move that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Any comments or questions from Township Committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes.
Thank you.
I, Jeffrey Grayzell, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Mr. Carlson, 0621, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance of the Township of Morris, Morris County, New Jersey, concerning salaries for non-union personnel - fire department. This is the 2021 salaries for non-union fire employees.
Very good. So it's, I'll turn it over to Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to the previous ordinance, this deals with our fire command staff, our relief drivers. For that, this is separated out because Mr. Jarpy needs to recuse himself on this vote.
Very good. So will somebody offer 0621?
So moved.
Second.
Second, very good. So now we'll open it up to public comments and questions. Again, raise your hand virtually or hit *9 on your phone. Seeing none, will somebody move the
question, please?
Very good. Do we have second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Any questions or comments from Township Committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
Mr. Jarphy,
Abstain.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Griselle.
Yes.
Thank you.
I, Jeffrey GRAYZEL, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. Mr. Carlson, 0721, please.
Yes, this is an ordinance amending and repealing Chapter 268 entitled Fires and Fire Prevention and replacing it in its entirety.
Offer.
We have a second?
Second.
Very good. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Quinn. Just give a brief explanation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this involves our fire prevention and changing from an inspection fee to a registration fee for our commercial properties. It also puts in the protocol for the fire official, deputy fire officials and their role in conducting those inspections and the way we do it. And it sets the fees for a annual registration for these properties. And it primarily deals with the non-life hazard inspections compared to life hazard, which are regulated by the state.
Very good. And before we open it up to the public hearing, I do have a question about the ordinance. There are a number of editor's notes that are contained within the ordinance themselves. And can either Mr. Quinn or Mr. Carlson, do you want a copy of this? Okay. So how do you interpret the editor's notes, and do they actually move into the code themselves, or do they get redacted before they move into the code?
Mrs. Amelia may be the better answer on that, but I will check and get right back to you. Some of them are staying because were not changed from previous things. If you look at the entire code, you'll see the dates of all of the amendments to the code, which unfortunately you don't have in front of you, but I would have it in the code itself.
Mayor Griselle, when they get codified by our codifier,
Yes.
all the various notes and things are removed if they're not appropriate for the ordinance. And General Code does a wonderful job at doing things of that nature with the notes.
Very good. Okay, thank you. I just saw these comments for editor's notes and wondered if they stayed or left. Very good. And with that, I will open it up for public questions and comments. Again, raise your hand virtually or hit *9 on your phone. Seeing none, will somebody move? We close public portion?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any questions or comments for members of the Township Committee?
I would just offer one comment, Mayor, which is that I'm glad to see this ordinance before us. And to me, it's important because it shows it shows the importance of fire prevention. And a lot of work went into this to make the upgrades. And I just want to say how much I appreciate the work, and I appreciate the emphasis on fire prevention, the importance of that.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I'll add to that, in general, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here at the municipality. A lot of things that I think people take, for granted because they just don't see them happening. Things such as this fire prevention code. But there are lots of people in all different departments that are working all the time on behalf of our residents. And this is just one example, the fire code update, showing the hard work that the fire department is doing to help public safety in Morris Township, and making sure that we do things the right way, so that facilities are properly inspected and inspections are conducted in the right way to keep our residents and our businesses safe. So this is just another example, again, of a lot of the things that go on behind the scenes here in Morris Township. And thank you, Committeewoman Wilson, for that comment. So with that, I will ask for anybody else with a question or comment. Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call.
Thank you. Mr. Jarfi,
Abstain.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grisel.
Yes. I, Jeffrey Grayzell, Mayor, declare the ordinance adopted and finally passed, approve the same, and direct that the clerk publish proper notice thereof in the newspaper and to record the ordinance in the proper place. So that concludes our ordinance of public hearing and final consideration. We will now move to ordinances for introduction. So, Mr. Carlson, ordinance 0821.
Yes, Mayor, this is an ordinance modifying and amending Article 32 entitled Historic Preservation Commission, in particular, Section 57-159, entitled Establishment Membership, Powers and Duties, to amend Sections G and H to add Sections I, J, K, and L. This concerns the review process for exterior improvements to historic properties.
Very good. Will somebody move 0821?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. So now I'll open it up to comments or questions from the Township Committee. I'll actually start by reiterating some of the comments that I just made previously about the fire prevention ordinance. Again, this is another nice thing that's happening behind the scenes here in Morris Township by the Historic Preservation Committee, looking to protect the character of our town, the historic nature of our town, by giving them an opportunity to review some of the exteriors of properties that are going to be coming under renovation. So is there anything more than that, that's happening with this ordinance about just reviewing the exteriors of historic homes?
It's that, and what the process is, whether it goes before one of our land use boards or it comes before our construction office for permits, what is required for the review by our HPC. Also, one section that was there, it lists all of the historic properties. So that's an appendix to the ordinance that had not been there previously. And then this will give the Historic Preservation Committee the authority to review, as I said, the land use applications and things that come in through our construction office for certain exterior improvements.
I would like to add something, Mayor.
Yes, please.
The addition of the list as part of the ordinance, I think that's really impressive. That getting to that point of having that list has been that's a big accomplishment, and it's been quite challenging to define what constitutes a historic property and to narrow it down to a manageable amount. And so I just really commend the HPC for their work on this. This is a huge step forward.
Very good. And what Committeewoman Wilson was the list she was just referring to. If you do pull up the ordinance on our website, and I should have mentioned before, the way you can view these ordinances that we're talking about tonight, if you go to the agenda for our meeting, you'll see some highlights at the top of each section. So you can click on the title for ordinances for public hearing, or click on the title of ordinances for introduction, and all of those ordinances will pop up on your screen for your viewing. Attached to this ordinance 0821 is a listing of historical properties in Morris Township. It's quite an impressive list of homes. We're blessed to live in a historic community with such character. And just as the prior ordinance protected the safety of our community, this ordinance I view as protecting a part of the character of our community. Any other comments from Township Committee members?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to echo the comments have already been made. Thank you to our members, our volunteer members of the Historic Preservation Commission for getting this to this point, and also to our township professionals who have worked with them throughout the process. I know it's been a big effort to get this ordinance to this point, so I just want to thank them all for all their hard work and agree it's a great addition to our township ordinances to protect the historic nature of our town.
Very good.
And
Anybody
Mr.
else?
Mayor, I think
Yes.
that I echo and could not say it any better than Committeewoman Wilson and Deputy Mayor Giorfi. So hats off to all those folks that put in all the hard work. It's an impressive ordinance.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. So this ordinance will have a public hearing and final consideration at our meeting on April 21st, starting at 7 p.m. Mr. Carlson, 0921, please.
Thank you, Mayor. For calendar year 2021, this is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank pursuant to NJSA 40A:4-45.14.
Very good. So this is a standard ordinance we pass every year related to the budget, which we are going to be introducing later on in the agenda. But Mr. Quinn, can you give a little more background to this?
I will. The misnomer is it's a bank and it's real money. It's not. It's what we come in below the tax levy cap, we are allowed to put that into this quote unquote bank so that in years, if we had significant issues in the Township of Morris, if we had to go above the 2% tax levy cap, we would have money in this bank that we would be able to put into the budget without having to go out to the public for a formal vote because of the tax levy cap. So,
very good. And due to the fact that we haven't had an increase in taxes, in the tax rate, I should say, in Morris Township in 4 years, we've accumulated
quite a bit, and it does expire after several years each year.
Mm-hmm. So it rolls off.
It's roughly 3.5% of the budget that we can take a look at. And as I said, for Morris Township, it's a formality that is required by the state of New Jersey as part of the budget process.
Correct. So this is something we do every year as a formality as part of the budget process, as Mr. Quinn just said. Will somebody move 0921?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions or comments, Township Committee members? And again, this is not opened up for public hearing, which will occur on April 21st. So seeing none, I will ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. So again, this will be heard for public hearing and final consideration April 21st at 7 p.m. Mr. Carlson, 1021, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 447, Pool Municipal Rules and Regulations, and in particular replacing Section 447-5 entitled Membership Fees, A through L, including operating restrictions from the COVID-19 pandemic. This modifies the swim pool membership process due to COVID restrictions.
Very good. Mr. Quinn, I'll let you address it.
Thank you, sir. This is just in reference to the swim pool. As everybody knows, we had some significant restrictions in the number of people that could attend pool last year. Those capacity limits were approximately 50%. This ordinance does not raise rates for the 2021 pool season. However, it does extend the early bird registration because our registration process is a little bit late going out, waiting for if we were going to get some changes in the capacity restrictions. Those have not come yet. So this ordinance then puts into play how we will handle applications for the pool that have come in, and it will be based on the capacity limits as they are identified by the governor's office and the Department of Health as we get closer to pool season. So we are certainly hopeful that those restrictions we had last year will be lifted, but as of now, they still remain from last year. And then also giving our residents that early bird rate for now through May 15th rather than May 1st.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Will somebody move, what is it, 1021? Thanks. Second? Do we have a second? Very good. Any questions or comments from Township Committee?
I was going to address this as part of the standing committee updates later on. I'm going to reserve that and allow other folks to comment on this. It was a particularly interesting discussion on pool rates this year, and I'll leave it at that for right now.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Thank you. Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes.
Thank you.
And again, ordinance 1021 will have a public hearing and final consideration at our April 21st meeting starting at 7 p.m. Next up, we have the introduction of our 2021 municipal budget. The chair of our finance committee is Mr. Mancuso, and he and Mr. Quinn have developed some slides to present to the public. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Along with Mr. Jorfi's help.
Along with Mr. Jorfi's help. Yes.
Everybody's help.
Team effort.
It was definitely a team effort, and it's still a team effort as we move forward.
Okay, so we're going to bring up the slides. Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you on that. Pleased to present the 2021 Morris Township Municipal Budget. In the 11 years that I've been doing budgets, this has been by far the most difficult and the most challenging. A lot of factors went in there besides COVID. Some other challenges that came up with some additional expenses that have to be budgeted, and also as part of COVID, a significant reduction in our annual revenue that we get from permits and fees and those kinds of things. So Mr. Dell, if you go to the next slide, please. Some of the challenges that we faced, Morris Township, as all municipalities and counties, saw a significant increase from the New Jersey Department of Pensions as to what their assessment would be. Our assessment went up a little over 10% for that. We have two pensions that we contribute to, the public employees retirement system and then the police and fire retirement system. We saw an increase on the public employees retirement system of just under $150,000. And we saw an increase on the police and fire retirement system of just under $200,000, bringing an increase that has to be budgeted of $350,000. The township's assessment for pension for its employees this year will be in excess of $2.8 million, which is about a little over 7.7% of the total budget. That was the first challenge that we had that came out late last year. The other challenges that we've been dealing with are our COVID expenses. With those, we have, tracking all of that. We've had for additional employee hours for different things, all of the PPE equipment, and making sure that Morris Township is safe and that we put in protocols to manage the COVID screening with our additional health people. We looked at approximately $350,000 in extra COVID fees last year. We have seen some reimbursement from the CARES Act of about $250,000, and we're certainly expecting some additional funding coming in with the recent stimulus package. But overall, the COVID fees, also impacted our operation. As we just, Township Committee just adopted the salary ordinances. It's approximately 2% for all of our employees, along with another 2% increase on health care for our employees. We're looking at just under $400,000 for that. The debt service went up. That's pretty stable, but it did go up this year, $56,000. And then one of the other big challenges we had is the recycling market has been up and down, somewhat of a roller coaster. And where years ago, we used to get money for our recyclables, we have to pay for the recycling to be disposed of. The only commodity that actually brings money to the township is cardboard that is pre-separated. We're looking at probably an additional close to $175,000 projected for disposal of recycling costs. The other concern that we had, again, is related to COVID. Our gross tonnage for trash went up about 9%, cost of about another $75,000 for those disposal costs. And, we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's, primarily from more people and kids at home, working from home, those kinds of things. The swim pool was also a challenge. We've always put extra money from the budget into the swim pool utility. It was always used to be done primarily to cover the debt service when the two pools were renovated back in 2014, 2015. We can only budget revenue that we take in. And some of the concerns last year with the swim pool, we were down about 61% on the swim pool revenue, which will require us to put in an additional $300,000 into the budget to help offset the swim pool utility costs. Next, Mark. Basically, our anticipated revenues for 2021 will be a fund balance of $6.4 million. This is the money that we have in hand. I'm going to get into that also a little bit further as to what we retain. Our miscellaneous revenue, which is our fees and permits, and also our state aid of approximately $5.7 million. 5.7. We do have delinquent tax that comes in from previous years. That's about $500,000. And then our local tax, and we do have a new pilot program over at the Lennar. We'll bring in $23.7 million. And then we have the library. Library, you'll also see on the next slide, goes into the budget, but also an equal amount goes out, bringing the 2021 budget to $38.294 million, which is the same amount of the 2020 budget. Our cost for 2021, the salary and wages of $14.6 million, our operating expenses of $9.6 million, the statutory expenses, which include the pension contributions that I spoke of $4.7 million, the joint library, which is coming in and going out, $1.9 million. One of the major things that we did this year, we usually budget somewhere close to $1 million a year for capital projects. We're still going to have our capital program. However, we're taking some other older capital. We're going to retire that as part of the future capital project, but we're only going to raise $67,000 in this year's budget compared to where we usually do $1 million to help offset the significant costs that we've had. And then the debt service is $4.1 million. And then the reserve for the uncollected taxes, which is steady every year, it's the same amount of $3.2 million. And that gives us the balanced budget of $38.294 million. To somewhat look at the coronavirus impact. One of the big ones was the loss of fund balance, and that's how much money we have. We look at that every year and determine how much money we can take from that, and also keep at least 2 months of appropriations on hand as a reserve. We saw a $2.2 million reduction this year from the end of 2019 compared to the end of 2020. We saw a significant reduction in the permits and fees that we collect on an annual basis. Some of them being the hotel room tax was down $280,000. We're usually up around $600,000. Our municipal court fees were down $110,000. And our permits were down approximately $500,000. So fairly significant loss of revenue for the township. We certainly expect it to bounce back post-COVID, but until then, they were significant impact on the budget. We did see also, as many of you know, interest rates and investments also went down with COVID, and we've always done very well on them, but we did see a reduction of approximately $300,000 on investments. As I previously spoke, the increase of trash tonnage because of people working from home and kids being home from school, that 9% increase equates to about $75,000. One of the biggest challenges was the swim pool, and to keep those amenities open for all of our residents over a very difficult summer last year, but giving them some relief, where we normally take in about $750,000 in revenue for the pools. Last year, we took in about $293,000 for that, so fairly significant loss for that. And as I previously say, we're certainly hopeful that these swim pools will be open to full capacity and full membership and help us bounce back for 2021. The other significant concern was the parking lot utility at the Convent train station. We usually take in about $400,000 to $450,000 for parking permits and the daily parking, and that was down about $240,000. Again, the parking lot is a fairly stable utility. We do have some fund balance for that. We can weather it for another year, so it won't have any direct impact on the overall budget, but we're hopeful that once people start getting back to work and everything else, that we'll see our parking numbers go back up to sustain our costs for that. The township has been very prepared for COVID. We worked very hard to make sure the impacts were lessened on our budget. We continue every year, as we have in the past, with some very conservative revenue projections. So last year, we still hit our numbers, but we're down over $900,000 in revenue. We keep up our reserve for uncollected taxes, but again, we did very well this year on our collection rate. It dipped, I think, 0.1 of a point compared to 2019. So we're grateful our tax revenue did come in as anticipated. On the fund balance, we lost that $2.2 million. We did a lot of cuts. We do keep, roughly 15% of appropriations on hand. So we did have to reduce our fund balance for the budget from $7.5 million down to $6.4 million. And then on many of the COVID expenses, the state has authorized us to use our Storm Trust Recovery Fund for those expenses, so it doesn't have a direct impact on our operating budget or on the tax rate. And that is money that we put in for years when we don't have a significant snowfall, but the money that we budgeted so we can carry it over from year to year. And we often use it when we have tropical storms or debris, snowstorms, that kind of thing. But fortunately, the state allowed us to use that trust fund to pay our COVID expenses, and then the money coming back in for that reimbursement goes back into that storm trust. So the good thing on the 2021 budget, we are maintaining all of the services that the township provides. We are maintaining our annual road overlay program. We also have the long time coming, the total reconstruction of Kennedy Road Gregory Avenue and Pine Tree Lane. We are looking to complete the Ginty Tennis Court project. As many of you know, we started that project last year. The courts were done up at Streeter Pool or Streeter Complex, and then they were also done down here at the Ginty Complex, including pickleball. And we have another couple of courts that need to get done, so there's funding in that for that to complete that project. So we have the pristine tennis courts on both sides of Morris Township. And then continue our sidewalk and walkability. We do have Baker Farm that we're working on getting that playground set up. And we also have Kiwanis Field off of Lake Valley Road, and providing sidewalks between those in conjunction with Mill Road will give sidewalk access to the residents of Fairchild, Deer Chase, and the neighborhood off of Lake Valley Road, access to those two facilities. We worked very hard. I said the budget came in at the same number as it did. It was just as it did in 2020. It just how we got there was the challenging part with some of the assessments, the recycling, but we offset that with our capital project spending allocation, significantly reduced that. What we're going to be working on this year is taking a look at all of our older projects that have been completed, taking those balances, we'll be retiring those balances and then reallocating the funding that we have to carry on our 2021 capital improvement project, which includes improvements to our roads, improvements to our infrastructures, the large vehicles for like Department of Public Works. So that will all be forthcoming, and that comes later on in April and May after the budget is adopted. As many of you know, that Morris Township has been, fiscally responsible for many, many years. We've been fortunate that we have not had to do a municipal tax increase since the reval. In fact, also a 2% reduction was done in 2018. However, for this year to make that, there will have to be a small increase of the taxes, and it's going to come out for the average home, which is valued at $560,000 assessed value. It'll be approximately $5.66 a month, which equates to $68 a year for the home valued at the $560,000, which is the average value of homes in Morris Township. I will be doing a further more detailed, in-depth budget presentation for the public hearing and for consideration of the adoption of the budget, and that will occur at the April 21st Township Committee meeting. And that will conclude my comments, Mayor. If anybody has any questions or comments for me.
Could I say a few words, please, Mr. Mayor? Peter?
Yes, please, Mr. Marquisa.
Thank you, sir. I've done 21 budgets for this town since I've been involved, and this was obviously the most difficult and trying of all of them. The thing I was most impressed about is that we had many disagreements among the five of us, and we were able to resolve every single thing in favor of what was best for the township. We kept the pool fees the same as they were because we felt that people were paying on the other side for their taxes, and we felt that we did not want to increase the pool fees. There was some controversy, but I'm so proud that notwithstanding the COVID and the things that happened, that we were able to meet and get together and agree on everything. My best wishes to Tim, our administrator, and Fran, who's our chief financial officer, who worked on this tirelessly since November. The rest of the committee got together with all of us. We did the budget workshops, etc. And I'm also proud of the department heads who really understood what we were facing and came in with the most minimum amounts of increase. So I'd just like to say, for once and for all, I thought it was a wonderful thing that the five of us agreed and we came up with a doable budget for Morris Township. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Ravitz, go ahead.
I also echo the sentiments of Committeeman Mancuso. This was my first budget. So two sides of a spectrum here. I have tremendous respect for Tim's approach to budgeting. I am just thrilled with what came of it and the result and what we can present to you, the residents of the township. And I just wanted to point out real quick that as Tim had pointed out, there was a 2% reduction in the taxes in 2018, and you know, had we not done that, and I don't care about hindsight, I'm not really talking about that. This tax increase we may not have, would only been about maybe 1% or so. So you know, we are a fiscally responsible town, and I applaud Tim and all the department heads for really sharpening their pencils this year and putting together an outstanding budget. So, you know, thank you for that.
Great.
Very good. Anybody else? So seeing none, I'll just add that again, to echo Mr. Mancuso's comments, thank you for the hard work for Mr. Quinn and Francine DeAngelis and the Finance Committee led by Mr. Mancuso. It was an unbelievably tough year this year. Thankfully, the tax revenues we received from our homeowners, you know, came in as targeted, but we really got hammered by the other sources of revenue in the budget that we rely on. And I think another thing that and I also like to add that, you know, Mr. Quinn's approach to conservative budgeting, and by conservative budgeting, I mean that we don't over project revenues every year in our budget. We're very conservative with how we project revenues that are going to come in, so that when we have a bad year like last year and this year probably, we're in a better place because we haven't over projected. We're conservative, and when those numbers come in lower, it's less hurtful. Had we budgeted like other towns do, where they project, you know, the full revenue into their budget, we would have experienced a lot more pain. So I thank Tim for his conservative approach over the years. We now learn how it's so important to do that. I think the other learning we had this year is that, you know, trying to do 0% increases year after year, and we've had 4 in a row of 0% with 1 reduction, is not sustainable. You know, the town is growing, and eventually it catches up with you. And going forward, I think we all agree that we're going to come up with a policy, whether it's tied to inflation or some other metric, that, you know, the budget's going to have to go up a little bit every year from now on, because when you have a bad year, it really hurts, and it makes the pain a lot worse because you haven't had those increases the last few years. So the budget will be discussed in more detail on April 21st at 7 p.m. We're going to have a public hearing and final adoption of the budget. I welcome the public to come out and ask questions at that time. We're not taking questions on the budget at the moment, but we will at the public hearing. These budget documents will be posted to our website tomorrow, correct, Mr. Quinn? So they will be available for viewing tomorrow. The public can inspect how we've budgeted our funds. It's open and transparent right on our website. And again, I invite the public back on April 21st at 7 p.m. At our next monthly meeting, and we will answer all the questions related to the budget. So with that, we have to move the introduction of the budget.
I have that ready when you are.
Okay, so can you read that into the record, Mr. Quinn?
Yes, sir, I can. This is the municipal budget notice, the municipal budget resolution of the Township of Morris, County of Morris for fiscal year 2021. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for year 2021. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the next available edition of the Morris County Daily Record. The governing body of the Township of Morris does hereby approve the introduction of the budget for year 2021. And with that, I would ask for a motion and a second, and then a roll call by Mrs. Emilio.
I would make that motion, Mr. Quinn and Mr. Mayor.
Very good. I was going to give you that honor, Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. As the second member of the Finance Committee, I will second Mr. Mancuso's motion. Is that okay, Mr. Quinn?
Certainly.
Very good. And with that, I will ask for well, I guess I'll ask if now that we have a first and second, any questions or additional comments from Township Committee members before we take a vote? Seeing none, we'll ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Jorfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes.
One more final thing for myself, sir.
So Mr. Quinn has one more thing.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the public hearing and final consideration by the mayor and township committee on the 2021 budget and tax resolution will be held on April 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Morris Township Municipal Building, 50 Woodland Avenue, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2021 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons. Thank you, sir.
Very good. And just to clarify the record, although Mr. Quinn says that the hearing will take place at 50 Woodland Avenue, it will actually be taking place virtually via Zoom. I didn't state at the beginning of the meeting that while you do see some people here in the room, it's myself, Deputy Mayor Jorfi, our Township Administrator, Mr. Quinn, and our tech person who's running the meeting, our meeting host. Those are the only people here in the building. So everything else is conducted virtually, as will the budget hearing on April 21st. Okay, next up are bid reports. We have 2 bid reports tonight, very exciting bid reports tonight. I've been looking forward to this day, as many of us have for a long time. Mr. Quinn.
I've spoken too much tonight already, sir.
It's okay. This is the good part.
Thank you, sir. 2 bids to report on. First being the reconstruction of Arena Road. Those bids went out back in February. They were opened on March 10th. 17 vendors picked up bid specs and 12 bids were submitted on March 10th. The bids range from $1,161,002 to $1,577,311. Our engineering department has determined that the lowest responsible bidder was PM Construction Corporation at $1,161,002. There is an accompanying resolution for your consideration to award this contract to PM Construction.
Very good. And that accompanying resolution we'll vote on later this evening. But yes, very pleased to have this road construction done. Just so the public understands, every year we do at least one major road reconstruction project. Last year it was Washington Valley Road, right. Correct?
That is correct, sir.
This year it's Rainer Road, but the year before was it Fairchild Avenue?
No, that was the year before.
That was the year before that, and the year before that was Burnham Road.
Right, Burnham Road was
Anyway, Mr. Quinn is failing the quiz. But every year we do a project. Mr. Quinn stated before that in this year's budget, the project for next year is going to be Kennedy, Pine Tree, and Gregory Streets that we're doing for major reconstruction.
And we also have Sherman Avenue.
And we also have Sherman Avenue coming up.
Correct.
So we do,
Parkway.
and Normandy Parkway coming up. Yeah, so we do continue to plow forward with improvements to our infrastructure. And this is a major roadway that connects Hanover Avenue with Sussex Turnpike.
And also just, Mayor, for the Rainer Road project, that is also was our Department of Transportation Local Assistance Program grant. So we're getting an additional $300,000 towards the cost of that from the state.
Okay, so as Mr. Quinn said, we're going to have a cost offset as we do with many of our major road projects. So this year it's $300,000. Last year we got $499,000. So a little reduction this year. And as Mr. Quinn also stated earlier, for those residents in the Rainer Road area, notice will be going out to you about this project for a virtual. Is there going to be a virtual public meeting or just opportunities for one-on-one questions?
Opportunities to come in on one-on-one with that, and we can set up in conference room 1. If they are also going to be able to post certain portions of the plan, so people can look at it virtually, or if they want to come in and look at the big set of plans and talk to an engineer, we will facilitate that.
Very good. So any resident who's in that area on Rainer Road, please keep a lookout for that. If you don't get one, you can contact the administration. But this is a really wonderful project that it'll greatly improve that particular roadway. Very good. Next bid, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, sir. That is the long-awaited James Street Sidewalk Improvement Project. 12 companies picked up the bid packages in February. We had the bid opening on March 10th. With that, 8 bids were submitted. The range of those were the cost of $168,918 to $353,320. This has been reviewed by our engineering department, and the recommendation to the lowest responsible bidder is Midwest Construction Company for a bid amount of $168,918. There will also be a resolution for your consideration to award this contract to Midwest Construction for this project.
Very good.
I will conclude my bid report, sir.
Very good. And just so the public understands, this sidewalk is going to connect to the existing Morristown sidewalk that they put in a couple years to their border. So it'll run from the Morristown border through.
Right. We have sidewalk in front of the townhome, the Woodside Townhome project, and we're connecting to that, and we'll go down all the way approximately across from Apple Tree off of James Street.
Very good.
And
so
connect into that neighborhood and also the other neighborhoods off of James Street.
Very good. And I like to call this phase 1 because ultimately, and I don't know when it'll occur, but it is something we want to do, is ultimately connect over 287 to connect to Southgate Parkway so that people can bike and walk safely to our Ginty Pool Complex in Lewanika Park. So very pleased with that. Thank you. Next up, we have resolutions 5821 through 7621. And we don't have any that came out of our closed session this evening, correct?
That is correct.
Are there any that we want to pull out? I know Committeewoman Wilson would like to pull out the resolution honoring Women's History Month. So we can do that separately. Correct, Ms. Wilson?
It's we don't have to vote on it separately.
Okay, very good. We'll acknowledge that one later. Anybody have any that they want to pull out? No, very good. So will somebody move resolutions 5821 through 7621, please?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
We have a first.
Seconded.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jarfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. And Committeewoman Wilson, do you want to make your comments now since we just passed the resolutions?
No, I'm going to save that for my Township Committee comments.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else have any comments on the resolutions right now? Seeing none, we'll move on to general business correspondence. Will somebody move consent calendar attachment A as circulated?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Now we come to the portion of the meeting where we do standing committee reports and commentary by Township Committee. My preference is to break them up, so I'm just going to ask people to comment on their standing committee work first, so we can talk about the business of the township, and then I'll open it back up for any general comments a member has. With that, I will start with Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, sir. Morris Township is participating in the New Jersey Highway Traffic Safety and Driving While Distracted situation. It goes from April 1st until April 21st. We have 100 hours of enforcement. We're able to hire officers on overtime to enforce the laws and range that we're hopefully having happen. This has to do with people who text and drive or speak on the phone while driving, plus several other situations. I think it's a major thing. It has been one of the things that I have spoken about. And once we get through the budget and get through the Mount Kimball thing, I will try to bring up more thought processes on that. So it's a major thing that we're going to do. It'll be for that from the 1st until the 21st of April. Looking forward to it. Our road patrolmen made 9 DWI stops this month so far, involving arrests, some crashes. Our officers, as usual, acquitted themselves admirably, and we couldn't be prouder of them. I have 2 more items, but I'll save them for the comments later, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mancuso. Mr. Ravitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 committee reports. I'll try to be brief. Infrastructure. The township is outgrowing our physical space in the municipal building. Growth is not necessarily a bad problem to have. And to that end, we'll be conducting a vision meeting with the appropriate persons to discuss what options are available to us as our departments grow along with our town. Regarding the Parks and Rec, the new spring Parks and Rec brochure was just published. Please visit the township website at morristownship.com and click through departments and Parks and Recreation to view the brochure, to peruse the recreational programs and parks facilities for the spring. There was a lot of discussion around the 2021 pool fees, as alluded to earlier. After much deliberation, we finally all agreed to keep the pool fees at the 2020 levels. I'm not sure how many people are aware that the pools are a drain on our municipal budget, and 2020 was an exceptional loss due to the pandemic. We have conservatively budgeted for 50% capacity, which was our capacity last year. But we all have every hope that the vaccinations in New Jersey will continue the steep upward trajectory, and that by the time the pools open, permitted usage will be at or very close to 100%. We will be putting together a 5-year plan to bring the pools as close to self-sustaining as possible. This means that there will be rate increases in the coming years that will put the fees at or near the top of those charged by other neighboring towns for similar services. On the Communication Committee, our first Township Committee office hours meeting was held earlier this month, and they will continue to be held on the 2nd Wednesday of every month through the end of the year. The hours are 5 to 5:30 for private appointments and 5:30 to 6 for public commentary. Bring your questions, comments, and concerns, or your suggestions. We want to hear your feedback and or what's on your mind. For the April office hours, we have Committeewoman Wilson and Committeeman Giorfi will be available for the office hours. Visit the morristownship.com and do a simple search for the office hours, and you could sign up for a private conversation. That's it for me. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Committeewoman Wilson.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to report on the Energy Environment Sustainability Committee that Committeeman Giorfi and I work on. Lots of news here. We just received word in the last week or so that Morris Township has been approved to be part of the municipal audits program that's part of the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. This has been something that's been sort of on our radar for a long time. There was quite a bit of work involved here on the part of Mr. Quinn and his administrative assistant, Jenny Mantek. And it's just fabulous that we've been approved for this. What this does is that representatives, I'm not sure if they're from BPU or companies approved by BPU, but the bottom line is we get basically free audits, energy efficiency audits of many of our facilities in our town, and they make recommendations for ways to make your facilities more energy efficient. No obligation to do it, but it's just a very professional assessment of where you're at and some recommendations about what could be done. And then if you choose, depending what your, what your assessment is of what you'd like to do, there is the possibility of getting about 70% of the cost paid through the clean energy program. So it's really an excellent program, and it's underutilized in my opinion. And I would just mention in addition that the clean energy program includes two other components, one being a residential component for people in their own homes and another for businesses. All three components of the clean energy program are really underused in our state. And so I'm so thrilled that we got approved for the municipal portion. First step is the audit. We'll take it from there. And I'm kind of predicting this may open the door to further interest and participation in some of the other aspects of the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. Our Environmental Commission also has several opportunities, activities, Zoom events coming up. They've partnered with the Madison Environmental Commission. I'm not exactly sure which other commissions. There's quite a bit of collaboration across towns here going on. There's going to be a composting webinar on March 22nd. Background information for people who are interested in learning more about composting for themselves. And I believe there is going to be information posted pretty soon on our website. I looked there just today before coming to this meeting, and there was a message coming soon. So I know that it's been very popular. There's a limit of 100 people for this event, and if you're interested, I would recommend registering right away, because it's filling, and it's interesting because it just shows how much interest there is in this. There are also, that is our Environmental Commission together with Madison and certain other environmental commissions are planning a composter sale. This is for individuals. They have a date, which is April 24th. And it's my understanding it's going to take place at the Ginty parking lot. Details, I believe, will be posted on our website as well. The energy aggregation subgroup has a date for the next public meeting, April 28th, 2021. And the outreach subcommittee of the Environmental Commission is gearing up to publicize this and share additional information with the public. So I'll put in my plug. If you haven't signed up for additional information, go to the Township website, click on Government, click on Environmental Commission, and you'll see much of this information posted there soon if it's not there already. And I have to commend our Environmental Commission. They're really active and getting a lot done. And I'm very happy with what I see them accomplishing. And I also would say one other sort of shout out, our Environmental Commission is working collaboratively. There's actually a coalition that's developed in the last couple of years of Morris Township, Madison, Chatham Township, Chatham Borough, and several other towns. And they meet, they do their Zoom meetings, they have subcommittees. So there's a lot coming out of this coalition. And I'm really happy to see all that's going on here. So, and the other committee I have is the fire department, and I'm very happy to see the ordinance that was passed this evening with the focus on fire prevention. So that is it for my standing committee reports, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for pointing out the effort on composting. I think that's going to be really important for the community going forward, and I think we're going to have a bigger push on that. Mr. Quinn mentioned tonight the impacts of tonnage costs to process our garbage when we haul it away. Those are ever increasing every year, and we had a big increase this past year and going forward this year. So anything that we can take out of the garbage stream will help with our taxes. So anything that you can not throw away, that you can compost, will eventually save us all money. So again, we're hoping to have a big push on that later down the road, but I'm glad this is a great first step. And when those composters go on sale, I urge people to buy them. Okay, Mr. Jorfy.
Mayor, are we doing just committee reports now, and then we'll get to commentary?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I do have several committee reports, so I will be as efficient and expeditious as possible. Thank you, Committeeman Ravitz, for going over our office hours as part of the Communications Standing Committee effort. Committeeman Mancuso and I, along with Mr. Quinn, did our first private conference call office hours, as well as our Zoom office hours. It's great to have this back in our lineup each month for residents to take advantage of, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next month with Committeewoman Wilson. The Communications Standing Committee, in my role as the chair, I worked with Committeeman Mancuso on working on some of the budget communications, and I'm looking forward to working further on those down the road as we approach the public hearing on the budget next month. For the Legislation Standing Committee, I wanted to just highlight the Women's History Month resolution that we passed this evening. I know Committeewoman Wilson wanted to make some comments on that. I just wanted to highlight one passage which I thought was, deserves to be read into the record. And from the resolution, it's, we remember the trailblazers of the past, including the women who are not recorded in our history books. And we honor their legacies by carrying forward the valuable lessons learned from the powerful examples that they set. I know we all have had one or many important women in all of our lives, and I think it was a great resolution. I appreciate all the help getting that into this month's agenda. The second resolution I wanted to talk about, which was vetted through the Legislation Standing Committee this month, was the final resolution we passed tonight, 76-21, discussing the marijuana cleanup bill in Trenton. I just want to provide some background on this that we all just passed in a bipartisan manner, which I am grateful that we were able to do. New Jersey's recently signed marijuana laws, which came after 2/3 of the state voted to legalize marijuana in November, require thoughtful review by the Township Committee and our professionals. As chair of the Legislation Standing Committee, it is my view that this important issue merits broader discussion with our community, particularly as it relates to our zoning. As such, we will be sure to inform the public and encourage input so that we have our residents' interests top of mind before making any decisions related to the sale, manufacturing, and distribution of marijuana in Morris Township. Tonight's resolution, however, is separate from this process. We have had many conversations over the past several days about provisions in the cleanup bill introduced in the State House that impacts parental notifications made by police, as well as provisions that would restrict our law enforcement officers' abilities to do their jobs. Therefore, the Township Committee joined together to support efforts to review and revise the Senate bill. In particular, the committee supports a change in the first offense provision, which currently prohibits law enforcement officers from notifying the parents of individuals under the age of 18. We also encourage a thorough review of the rules governing conduct by law enforcement, and we further urge balance in establishing penalties that are fair and just for all. Here in Morris Township, we take pride in working together and acting in unison in our decision-making. We have done that earlier tonight by introducing the budget, and we did it again through passing this resolution, and I'm proud of the bipartisan nature. For the Transportation Standing Committee, which I chair, as I'm also chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee, which we oversee. At our March meeting of TAC, we voted for the first time to send recommendations for a particular project in the township, and that was to make improvements to Old Glen Road, which we will be distributing to the Township Committee. The document, which will soon be circulated, was prepared by our ad hoc subcommittee on Old Glen Road to review and evaluate the particular circumstances of pedestrian safety on Old Glen. We've just approved this attack at our March meeting, and we recommend the Township Committee to review and work with our professionals to implement one or several of our recommendations. I'd also like to highlight that some of these are already in the works thanks to the hard work of our professionals. TAC continues to review the data from our survey, which we put out in the field in November and got tremendous response rates on. And we'll be utilizing our April meeting as a working session to narrow down and finalize a list of recommendations for the Township Committee to make improvements based on the results of this survey. These will specifically relate to protecting pedestrians, pedestrian needs, and enhancing traffic circulation and safety. I look forward to going through those with the committee in the near future. Lastly, for transportation, I just wanted to highlight that Chris Ruggieri joined us and was sworn in as our newest member since we passed the ordinance expanding the membership of TAC, and I look forward to swearing in a new member again at next month's meeting. Mayor, those are my reports.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sharpie. And I just have two quick committee reports, both of which we spoke of a little bit tonight. But I am very pleased that we finally awarded the contract for the long-awaited Jane Street sidewalk project. I'm hopeful that work will begin soon once the weather warms up a little bit more. Mr. Quinn, do you have any projection when they might start?
It has to go through the review process for the bonds and to start. So they have 3 weeks to complete that. Mr. Carlson will review their bonds that they submit, and they will be given a notice to proceed. So we're hopeful that they'll get started sometime in April.
In April. That's
hopeful.
great.
I mean,
Yeah, that's hopeful.
We have not had our pre-construction meeting with them yet to see what other projects they have that are in the pipeline, those kinds of things. So next step is for them to be given the contracts. They have 3 weeks to review those contracts, get it back to us, and also submit the performance bonds for that are required in Mr. Carlson's review.
Very good. So let's set a goal of getting the work started before April 21st so we don't have to answer any questions at that next meeting. So that's our internal goal, okay? April 20th. Very good. Second, finance. One thing that I failed to mention in my comments on the budget, and so I'll mention them here, is that a lot of you have heard about the American Relief Act. Is that what it's called? The federal legislation for the COVID relief is coming, and it contains some state and local aid. I am very thankful for Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill for fighting for that provision. There are people from around the country who did not want to include state and local aid in this legislation, and our Congresswoman was one of the voices that spoke out for including this, even when at the last minute when they tried to strike it again. So thankful for Mikey Sherrill for that. Something that we learned just today, correct, Mr. Quinn, is that the state will not allow us to extend the budget deadline in submitting our budget, so that although this money has been appropriated, we cannot incorporate it into our budget. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Very good. So we're looking forward to the money. It's not exactly, we have a figure that has been allotted to us. We're not exactly clear if we're getting that amount, or we have to, what the regulations are about securing the money. But the bottom line is we could not include it in this budget, unfortunately. And so we'll be looking to guidance from the state of New Jersey and I'm sure every municipality in the state of New Jersey is going to look for guidance from the state on how we can utilize those funds once they are released. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody so there's no confusion about how and when the money can be used in our budget. So I'd like to thank Mr. Quinn again and Francine DeAngelis for working many long hours and quite frankly on many, many weekends to pull this difficult budget together in this difficult year that we had due to COVID. I also want to give some special thanks to Peter Mancuso, who is the chair of our finance committee, as I stated earlier. Since only 2 township committee members can be in the same meeting at one time for it not to be considered a quorum, this meant that Mr. Mancuso had to sit individually with each of the other township committee members, along with Mr. Quinn, to review the individual budget, do the individual budget reviews. with each of the township committee members. So I thank you, Peter, for the extra time you put in as well. And we are so very glad to have you and your expertise on the Finance Committee. And that concludes my standing committee reports. And like I said, I like to do the business of the township first before we segregate out any personal commentary. So now I will loop back to everybody for any additional personal comments you might have. And we'll go in reverse order? Sure. Mr. Jorfe's chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to jump on your comments to thank Tim and Fran for the budget, for working on the budget so diligently, as well as special thanks to Committeeman Mancuso for sitting through all those meetings with the rest of the committee and providing your expertise, insights, and thoughtful recommendations for all of us as we went through the numbers. So thank you all for that process and for getting us to the point where we are now. I did want to congratulate all those involved for getting the James Street sidewalk project to where it is today. I know it's been a long process, and several folks on the dais worked very hard to get it to this point, so I wanted to say kudos to them. I have a few just announcements as we get closer to spring. One is that on March 27th, Saturday, the Hillside Hose Ladies Auxiliary will be hosting a Hayward Park Spring Cleanup, which they've done for several years. What makes this year's event special is that it's taking place on their 75th anniversary of their founding, the Ladies Auxiliary as it is today. So I just wanted to highlight that. I know Hillside will be doing a larger celebration at some point in the future once it's safe, but those who live in the Burnham Park neighborhood who would like to help out, they will be following all COVID protocols, and it's just a great way to get outside, get some fresh air. Talking about things that the firehouses are doing as we approach Easter, just being aware that many of the firehouses will be doing events. Check the township website as long as their individual fire companies' Facebook pages for information. I know normal Easter egg hunts are not happening this year, but they are doing some other events that are COVID compliant in lieu of that. Lastly, I did just want to wish everyone the best as we approach Passover, Holy Week, and Easter, which takes place before our next meeting. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So in reverse order, we'll go to Committeewoman Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of comments. First off, I'd like to congratulate David Wilson on being appointed to TAC. He has lived in Morris Township most of his life. He's an avid bicyclist himself. He's very familiar with all the different roads and pathways in our town, and I know he's well prepared to contribute to TAC's mission of developing ways to improve walking, biking, driving, and parking in our town. So welcome aboard to David. I too would like to express how thrilled I am to approve the lowest responsible bidder tonight to complete the work on the James Street sidewalk. From talking with Mr. Slate, this work is anticipated, according to him, to be completed by the end of May, which fingers crossed. And this project has really been a long time coming. So I know I, like all of us, am just really looking forward to seeing this completed. I did want to comment on the Women's History Month. There is a resolution in our resolutions. I want to thank Deputy Mayor Jorffe for writing that. It's very well done. March is Women's History Month. It's an event that I feel passionate about for obvious reasons. And in reflecting on what I wanted to say about this occasion tonight, I came across an article that really resonated with me. So instead of taking the time to write out my own comments, I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from this article. The title of the article is 5 Reasons Women's History Month is Important. The author is J.R. Thorpe. She's an historian who specializes in women's history. And the article is dated March 21st, 2016. So this is her. You might be wondering why one gender needs a particular month devoted to its contributions to history. The answer is pretty simple. It's because when it comes to history, the story of women is largely one of exclusion, silence, and absence. And we need a month at a minimum to redress the balance. Women have made a lot of history, but sometimes looking at the history books, you wouldn't know it. For every influential woman in history you can name, there are many more you've never heard of. With all of that in mind, here are 5 reasons why Women's History Month needs to exist. Number 1, there are so many unacknowledged women who made history. Women have been discredited and overlooked in their real deserving place in history. As a historian, says Ms. Thorpe, I basically have an endless supply of awesome women whose achievements are not well known to write about, which is great for my job, but bad for my soul. Being a household name was not the aim of the women who changed the world, but it's definitely unfair to see them denied the credit they deserve. Legacy matters. Reason number 2, women weren't allowed to create history for a long, long time. The importance of Women's History Month is also about lack and absence. Women are severely outnumbered in many Western histories of important events. Why? Because history was written overwhelmingly by guys, and women were largely left out of the discussion. We see it differently nowadays, but historically, that has been the case. We've also been denied the opportunity to create history simply because we've been given far less access to power. Women in human civilizations throughout history have been denied access to education, voting rights, the ability to stand for election, own property, or control businesses. In the overall picture, women have been largely left out, and that matters. Recognition, this is number 3 reason. Recognition is extremely important. Know a woman's name, know her history, know what she did, how she did it, and why she did it. Shining a light on women's contributions to the annals of human history make us equal humans, equally worthy of being remembered for our deeds. Women's History Month is also about viewing societal shifts through the lens of women's perspectives. Even if the evidence is piecemeal, as it often is, the female voice and I need to be a part of how we view human existence in the past. Reason 4, it busts myths about what women can't do. History is filled with myths about things that women can't do. We can't do math and engineering. We can't write influential literature. We can't be good military leaders. We can't govern. Until 100 years ago, we couldn't even vote. Women's history reminds us to continue busting the myths that have held us back in the past. And finally, reason 5, history is inspirational to future generations. Being a vocal, important part of history is one of the ways in which women of the past change us, leading by example. I want girls and women to have the names of complicated, fully realized, centuries-old women on the tips of their tongues. Women's History Month matters because women's history needs to matter to us. And that is all I have this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Mr. Ravitz, you have the honor of following that.
I was just going to say, I don't know how I can follow that. Those were some really moving words. Thank you so much for that. And,
oh, I didn't write it. That's why I felt compelled to.
Well, you read it beautifully.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, and thank you to the members of the public in attendance for your participation in your local government. Government works best when the public is informed and engaged. For my public commentary this evening, I'd like to talk about how we're nearing the finish line to the pandemic that has affected every aspect of our lives over the last year. Vaccines are becoming more readily available. President Biden told us that by May 1st, vaccines will be available to every person over the age of 18. Many of us also know all too well how difficult and frustrating it is to get an appointment. Keep at it. I cannot stress enough the importance of getting vaccinated in order to resume our lives as we knew them in 2019, lives we all dearly miss. While COVID rates continue to decline in the nation, New Jersey is experiencing, upticks in new infections. We are so close to seeing the end of this. And for those people who are not yet vaccinated, it's vitally important that you don't let your guard down now. Continue to follow the guidelines set forth by the CDC regarding mask wearing, social distancing, and washing your hands. I've read that there's a group of people who are averse to being inoculated. Thanks to social media, disinformation still is rampant and people are believing erroneous information. In a recent study published by the Delphi Group at Carnegie Mellon University in partnership with Facebook, 18 million people responded. The top 5 reasons these people give to not getting a vaccine is concern about side effects, waiting to see if they're safe, others need them more than me, mistrust of vaccines, and mistrust of government. Maybe some of us know such people. We must do what we can to convince them to get a vaccine when it's offered. We need to get at least 75% of the population vaccinated so we can achieve herd immunity and to prevent the spread of more aggressive mutations. COVID-19 is not going away, ever. Earlier this week, I received my first dose of the vaccine. I went to the mega center in Rockaway, and I want to report to you how incredibly efficient the operation in place there is. Kudos to the New Jersey National Guard, FEMA, and all the Atlantic health workers there who have this center working like a well-oiled machine. There are lines, but they are always moving and moving quickly. You make your second appointment while you wait the 15 minutes of observation time. Easy peasy. Let's become a positive statistic in the fight against COVID-19. And in closing, in light of the horrible murders in Atlanta yesterday, I'd like to express my solidarity with our Asian neighbors and families who are feeling especially vulnerable right now, and hope that through dialogue, we become a better and stronger community. Thank you, and happy Passover and happy Easter to those of our friends who celebrate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz, for those nice comments. Mr. Mancuso.
Thank you, Mr. Ravitz. I echo your thought process about the COVID and about getting the vaccinations. Lois and I got them down at Robert Wood Johnson over at St. Barnabas, and it was as easy as you could possibly. And Rod has had his first shot over at Rockaway, the same place you have. So it's vitally important. It's vitally important. We have to save our society and do all the things we need to do. A really good piece of news is a major real estate firm in the state of New Jersey called Niche, N-I-C-H-E, and it goes by niche.com, ranked the 566 towns in New Jersey as to which of them were the best places to live. And Morris Township gleefully came in number 67, about, in the top 11%. So I thought that was an absolute great kudo for us. And we had no input into it, didn't know it until I picked it up online last night. Again, happy Passover and happy Easter to our Jewish Christian friends. And I almost forgot. happy St. Patrick's Day, or I would have been sleeping on the couch tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. So earlier, Mr. Mancuso mentioned that the rec department brochure has been published and it can be found on our website. I'd like to add that my coaching career started with 7 years. My coaching career of 7 years coaching baseball started with the T-ball program. And you can consider this an introduction to baseball for boys and girls ages 5 to 7 years old. And T-ball registration has also opened for the 2021 season. And you can get more information about that program on our recreation department too. But I did want to give that particular shout out to a program that was a big part of my life for many years. I stated earlier tonight that during our awards section, that one of the things that makes Morris Township a wonderful place to live are the volunteers that give their time to make our community a better place for all of us. And another example of that is the Historic Preservation Committee. A lot of work went into the ordinance that we passed tonight. And so I want to thank all of the HPC members for their dedication to preserving the historical character of our community. Thank you for volunteering your time to others for the benefit of our entire community. I would also like to acknowledge the efforts of our engineer, Jim Slate, and administrator, Tim Quinn. They both dedicated a lot of hours themselves to constructing this ordinance and getting it to the finish line. So thank you for the entire group for this, what has been a lengthy process, but I think where we came out with this ordinance is wonderful for the community. So again, thank you everybody for your hard work on that. Morris County Park Commission, we received notification earlier this week that Morris County Park Commission has received a grant from the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority for an approximately 3-mile stretch of Patriots Path, part of which passes through Morris Township. The trail runs from Ridgedale Avenue to a point in Hanover, and this project calls for making this 3-mile section of Patriots Path into a multi-use trail for both walkers and bikers. So when I read that, I was curious about how much that might cost to make a 3-mile trail into something that's multi-use, because that has to be paved. So I went to the NJTPA website and found that they had received a $3.8 million grant from this organization. And I just wanted to highlight it because it will be a direct benefit to our residents here in Morris Township that will have another multi-use path at their disposal. And hopefully the TAC committee, the Transportation Advisory Committee, can latch onto that and see how we can make other connections to it. So it'll be a wonderful addition. I assume it'll be several years in the making for such a large project, but that's something coming down the road too that I wanted to highlight. And that closes out my comments for this evening. So back to the agenda. Next up, we have, I believe, the public commentary again, the second section of public commentary. So if you are in the public and you have a question for the Township Committee or a comment to make about business relating to Morris Township, please raise your hand or hit *9 on your phone. There's one.
Lee Goldberg.
Mr. Goldberg, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mayor Grayzell. Lee Goldberg, 10 Arrowhead Road. Just wanted to thank the entire Township Committee for all of the positive and good news that has been brought forward here this evening, from a trying budget season and coming in with a phenomenal budget and the efforts there, to the SNAP program, to the long-awaited James Street sidewalk that's been following that for years. So glad to see that that's finally coming to fruition. I do have one question about the James Street sidewalks that I'm curious about. Is that I know, it was years ago, and there was a notion at one point in time that there might be some grant money available for that, for the Safe Routes to Schools program. Was any grant money obtained at all or available for the sidewalks?
Unfortunately not. We did not receive any grant money for this. And we looked into the Safe Routes to School, but the way the school district works what was that?
There's distance issue.
Yes, there's distance issues, the way the school district distributes the kids in the school district.
Gotcha.
That didn't allow us to apply for that grant because the kids in that area actually don't go to that school, interestingly.
Okay.
So that was one of the issues amongst other things, but the answer is no, we didn't receive any grant money.
Thank you very much for that updated insight. I appreciate it. And then my other question is, and in terms of the field, the new field that's going in right at the crossing at Con Road there, as we're sort of coming out of, or hopefully coming out and at the tail end of the full impacts of what we've been thrown at us here over the last year with COVID, does a project like that, is it, you know, when the weather is fine, it just resumes the construction and the build out gets completed, or do we put something on hold like that until we see how we're back at full capacity in terms of the construction that moves forward on it? Or what's the projected, you know, sort of plan to complete that effort with the parking and all that? Is that just to resume as normal once weather permits, or?
Well, I think we're going to do it in phases. I'll let Mr. Quinn speak to it in a minute. But there's a rehab of the building that's involved. I think before we get, and there's parking facilities that are involved, and then there's a field that's involved. There's actually 2 sections of parking lot that's involved. And so I think that we're probably going to be doing a phased approach, but I'm not even sure we have a timeline just yet.
You're correct on, Mayor. There is not a timeline. There's some initial funding was put in place for doing some improvements to the building, which is ongoing. The work that is being done on the field is being done on Hovnanian for the township. And once that's complete, then, you know, we're going to have to appropriate the funding to complete the project, including the parking areas, but there is nothing in this year's budget for that.
Great. So just to clarify, the work that you do see on the field has kindly been donated by Hovnanian because they had the equipment on site, and they nicely graded the field for us. We didn't have to pay for that. But once that is complete, then we'll have to figure out a plan for paying for the rest of the field. We didn't budget for that this year, correct, Mr. Quinn?
That is correct, sir. It's in the queue, but it's not in the queue far enough up to be funded.
Right. So it's in the queue, but it won't happen this year. But we are renovating the building, and do we expect to occupy at least a part of the building this year?
Yes, we do. They've been working on that with the roof, the windows, and I know Mr. Daly's been over there working on some IT issues for them.
Okay. So just that little piece we'll see this year. And the rest is, as Mr. Quinn said, in the queue for future project work.
Okay. Thank you very much for the insight into that project. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. That was all I had. And thanks again for another terrific, action-packed and informative, well-run meeting. Thank you so much for all your time and attention, and have a great rest of your week ahead.
Great. And I'll give you a shout out to you, Mr. Goldberg. Thank you for attending, being a regular attendee of our meetings. We really try to promote public attendance at our meetings, and you are a great example of involvement on behalf of the public. So thank you for taking the time to be here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Anybody else, Mr. Daly? No? Marlene, no comment from Marlene. I see her on the list. Okay, I'll miss hearing her voice tonight. But I see you out there, Marlene. Okay. There we go. Okay, very good. So we'll move on. Will somebody move that we close public commentary?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Consideration of monthly reports. The following reports for the month of February 2021 are on file in the office of the Township Clerk and Township Administrator. Those reports being Tax Collector, Finance, Police, Joint Court, Joint Library, and Fire. Will somebody move consideration of the monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And lastly, claims for payment, list of bills and vouchers totaling $8,786,160.75. A reminder that Morris Township collects taxes on behalf of the school district and the library and the county, and then we disperse those funds, which is why our bills are so high every month. Will somebody move the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jorfi,
Yes.
Mr. Mancuso,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Grizel.
Yes. And before we adjourn, I just want to remind everybody that we are going to be conducting a special meeting on April 1st at 7 p.m. dedicated solely to Ordinance 01-25 for the 340 Mount Kimball Avenue redevelopment plan. That special meeting again is April 1st at 7 p.m. And then we will reconvene on April 21st at 7 p.m. for our regular monthly meeting for the month of April. And with that, can I have a motion to close our meeting?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. So we'll see you back here April 1st.
Good
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.